Alright guys, this is something that's been confusing to me for a long time, so it's probably confusing to at least one other person out there. SD cards. There's all these X's and classes and different physical sizes and adapters. So our goal with this buyer's guide is to break it down for you and simplify matters. I guess all I've really done here is broken things. I haven't broken anything down, and I certainly haven't simplified anything for myself.
This video is brought to you by the world's first 2.5-inch dual drive. The Western Digital Black Square Dual Drive is available now at NCIX.
Well, the good news is that all sizes and classes of SD cards are very durable. So as long as you don't get them wet and with chicken soup and then put them into a camera, which I've actually done, that one died, then they should be pretty much okay as far as physical stuff goes. All right, next up, let's talk about size. Officially, there are 3 sizes of SD cards. There's mini SD, micro SD, and full-size SD. However, mini SD is mostly defunct. I can't even really remember the last time I saw a mini SD card. There's an error in the script there. It says micro SD, and I've seen lots of those very, very recently. Now, regular SD cards are generally used in larger devices, cameras, camcorders, audio recorders, things like that. They do tend to offer higher performance as well as higher capacity options compared to micro SD, and this is partly just due to the fact that they are significantly larger. Micro SD, on the other hand, has pretty much taken over everything else. So tablets, phones, GPS devices, portable gaming systems, all that kind of stuff where you need a whole bunch of storage in an extremely small space. And remember guys, anywhere where they're going to add a slot into a device, it takes up significantly more room inside the device than the actual card you put in. So micro SD really does help them save a lot of space internally. The only real difference between micro SD and regular SD is the size. So they are pin compatible in terms of what you can plug things into. So you can't put a full-size SD card into a micro SD slot, but many micro SD cards come with adapters to full-size SD so that you can read them in regular card readers. This is particularly of importance because most laptops that have integrated card readers have full-size SD slots, so being able to quickly adapt and move data from your phone or camera or whatever other small device to a larger device is very, very handy. All right. So let's get into the features of your card. There are 3 main types of SD cards. There's the original SD, which goes up to I don't know, to 4 megs or some stupid thing. Anyways, old standard, basically, old capacities, very, very, very small. There's SDHC, which is high capacity, which, I believe goes up to 16 gigs or something along those lines. And then there's SDXC, or extended capacity, which currently goes up to 256 gigs. There are actually 256 gig cards on the market, although they are extremely expensive. Each of these new standards has come with evolutionary steps forward in terms of capacity, which I talked about before, as well as in terms of speed. So SDXC actually supports up to 2 terabytes. Now, each of these types of cards are somewhat forwards and backwards compatible, but there are some tricky rules. So for example, a device that accepts SDXC cards, so if you had a card reader built into the side of your monitor, for example, will take any of the older types of cards. However, a monitor that had an SD or SDHC slot in the side of it will not accept later standards such as SDXC of cards in it. I actually ran into this with an old Dell 2405 FPW that only accepts original SD, so that is cards up to 2 gigs. Next up is speed. So this is actually one of the reasons that some phones, such as Nexus ones, don't accept SD cards. Many SD cards are fast. Many SD cards are phenomenally slow and even come with poor quality flash on them. So what will happen, and this is why Google is trying to move away from SD expansion on phones entirely, what will happen is it will dramatically slow down the experience of using the device, which the end user is often going to blame on the phone itself. So you go and you buy a cheap SD card for $5, and then you're surprised when it's not as fast as the eMMC flash that is frequently used in phones. It is significantly faster than what you can fit in something like this. With that said, you can alleviate that issue by buying extremely fast SD cards, and we're going to be testing all the cards in front of me here today to give you guys some idea of what you should be looking at for something like that. Early SD cards were rated in terms of speed by using an X, so they could be 2x speed or 4x speed, much like CD-ROM drives. However, the process was simplified and changed to classes. So 2, 4, 6, and 10 indicate the minimum performance for both reads and writes, and we've actually got some newer standards like UHS 1, which is a subset of class 10 that is even faster. So that is to accommodate things like extremely high performance applications, like being able to write, ProRes or RAW files to something like a Blackmagic Pocket camera, which has, the bit rates of that kind of thing are extremely high compared to something like AVC HD, which is highly compressed and doesn't actually take up much space, but of course gives the creator more room to work with things like color in post-processing. So those high-speed devices perform extremely well with parallel multitasking operations, and for something like an NVIDIA Shield, where you want to install things like games, large games, on these devices, on the SD cards, well, as soon as that firmware update comes out, UHS 1 is going to be the way to go. The new UHS 2 standard actually is going to be coming with a minimum of 20 megabytes per second writes and a maximum of 312 megabytes per second. So we should see some very high performance cards coming in the future. One last tip, guys, don't use SD cards as long-term storage, okay? While they don't need to be powered on or plugged in to hold their memory, typically within 5 to 10 years, the card will be unreadable if left alone. Okay, guys? So the other thing about that is, aside from the standard just not being that robust, the flash used in an SD card, even a high-end SD card, is not of the same quality as the flash that would be used in something like an SSD that's meant to be a boot drive in your system. The manufacturers don't expect you to use these things for archiving your data. It's not what they're for. If you want to archive your data, you can use something like an M-disk from Millenniata, which is designed to last for 1,000 years, or even using something like magnetic storage, like hard drives, and then, just labeling them. This is what I actually do. I use WD green drives. I copy data to them. I can control how much redundancy I do or don't have on them. I put a piece of masking tape on them, I write on them, and I put them on a bookshelf. That's what I actually do. All right, guys, so I think that's pretty much it for our SD card buyer's guide. Stay tuned for the performance tests, which will be presented by someone, I guess. Yeah? No? Okay, cool. And I'll see you guys soon.